So we are here with Elizabeth Orpina, the editor-in-chief of the California Aggie. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining us for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
So a couple of weeks ago, the Aggie presented to the Senate, ultimately passing the bill for the initiative titled Save the Aggie. So a little background information for the viewers. This ballot measure will allow students to vote on a permanent student fee of a total of $3.88 per student per quarter, which is about $11 annually. Now, at the Senate meeting held on January 16th, there were some disputes in the discussion of the bill with some of the student senators and community members. And we're going to include a link for viewers to watch the coverage of the Aggie TV on the Aggie TV channel. There seems to be an ongoing discussion about this initiative, what's going to happen, and what it means. Elizabeth, when did you first realize that the weekly publication of the Aggie wasn't going so well?
I've known since spring of last year, when our editor-in-chief moved us from 4 days a week to 1 day a week. And when I got the job of editor-in-chief, she told me that this was my job, was to secure a student fee that would basically put us on the same model as many other successful UC newspapers. So it wasn't that I saw what was happening this year and decided this had to happen. This was something I knew coming into the job. That was my project.
From the Aggie's Facebook event page, it explains that if the initiative doesn't pass, the newspaper will go out of print. Can you explain a little bit about that? How is this the case?
So we have been running out of our reserves for years. We used to have enough to basically sustain the paper for a long time, but with the growing print costs and declining ad revenue, we've been eating up our reserves slowly, and now it's getting very, very low. And it's getting to the point where if we made no money from ads this quarter and next quarter, we could only sustain ourselves until summer, because the amount in our reserves covers us for printing for one more quarter. So without this fee, we cannot print past this year. So the student fee would be used to basically get some professional staff behind us, because there's going to be some incoming fees, some incoming funds, of course, and we want to make sure that the Aggie is as stable as possible. So we want a professional to be behind all of those numbers, and then we also want to hire someone who would be able to kind of develop the Aggie and think of the future in different ways that the editor-in-chief has to. So they would basically be doing a lot of fundraising and alumni kind of stuff, and that's something that UC Berkeley has, and we really like that idea. So part of that fee would continue to go to their salary, which a lot of people have an issue, or some people are showing an issue like, oh, my student fee is going to someone's salary. Then if you think about it, it's like, well, where's your tuition going to? Your professors' salaries, or any other student fees technically going to paying people. And the most successful ASUCD units are run by adults. So, and most other newspapers actually have probably about 7 professional staff members, and we haven't had one in about 10 years. So that money will constantly go to them. And then the money that would be used for printing, that if we went out of print, would be used to develop whatever program we were going into at that time. So we would plan on bringing in a lot more new media. So we would hope to develop that program within the Aggie and kind of go toward that model. And once we would go out of print, I would hope that depending on whatever's happening at the Aggie at that time, we could support any new ideas or adapt more to the newspaper industry.
At the Senate meeting where you introduced the referendum, senators raised some questions or concerns about that there's no, quote, no expiration date to the fee, and there needs to be some more oversight as the Aggie moves to online media, end quote. Do you have a response to this?
Yeah, you can't turn every single unit of ASUCD, even ASUCD itself, into a business. It's a workshop for every single student at this public university, and you can't make everything have to have a profit. So to kind of want to oversee everything that's going on at a newspaper is the student government trying to put their hands in something that they should never have any influence on. And I know that Business and Finance Council really does not like the in perpetuity clause. However, if you ask any other newspaper that's done this student fee, one, UCLA is in perpetuity, and Berkeley has an expiration date. However, they're going to ask for it again. And Irvine, their model was to ask for 5 years because they were going to go straight online. So that was their plan. They're not going to continue printing after 5 years. But for the newspapers that do continue and want to continue, such as the Daily Cal and the Daily Bruin, they have or they wish for a permanent fee.
So where do you personally see the Aggie 5 or even 10 years down the line?
The thing is, the print industry and as well as the newspaper industry changes every 10 years or so. And so I can't predict what's going to happen 10 years from now. Who knows? Print might just make a comeback. However, it probably won't. And I'm not saying that we're going to stay in print forever. However, I'm not going to say that we are going to transition immediately. It's going to be the beginning of the process. To basically adapt to the newspaper industry as it is now. However, to go out of print this year would be detrimental to our entire campus, but especially our newsroom. So I would say that we would probably remain in print for the next couple of years and see how the industry is going, but that's up to whoever's in charge then to kind of assess whether or not being in print is smart for the Aggie at that time. UWP is actually working toward bringing a journalism major to this campus, so I think that in conjunction with the student fee for the Aggie, that both programs would grow generously. It would attract a lot more students who are interested in writing or journalism or any other aspect of communication to have stronger journalism programs on this campus. In 5 years, I hope that it's a stronger paper, more stable, more happy staffers in terms of retention, because we can't pay them. So a lot of people wish to keep working here, it's just they need money. So I hope that it's a paper that has 100% retention and continues to attract really talented people who either one, just want to participate on something on campus, or they want the experience. And that's what we all want. Some of us aren't even here for the experience anymore. It's literally because we just care so much about this paper and what it stands for and what it's done for us, that I hope that it still has that culture of just supporting something you love. But I hope that they don't have to worry about going under every single year, or worrying about what you're going to do with $100 because you can't pay for the door code, and just stupid stuff like that. I do not wish upon future student leaders.
And you explained, like, on the Facebook event page that there may be an option to go back to daily academic schedule. Does that mean that eventually the Aggie would want to go back to daily print?
Well, we would definitely be adding one day for sure, immediately, basically to increase our presence on campus and the awareness of the paper, but also to kind of move us toward the normal newspaper model of printing more than once a week. And I'm not completely sure. I would just leave that up to the editors-in-chief in the future, whether they would want to go back to multiple days a week. But in order to kind of invest in the paper and make sure that it would do well in the future, we would want to basically increase our online presence and improve that, and basically become a super quality newspaper that people can grab online or in person. And then once that would happen, I would imagine then we would increase printing.
So we've asked our viewers to submit questions on Twitter and Facebook, and one of the questions reads, since prospective students know that there's no journalism major or program at UC Davis, why do we need to provide journalism opportunities through the Aggie?
Because you need a newspaper. we're a public institution. You can't not have a newspaper. The same person who asked those questions also mentioned how university communications does it so much better than us, or local newspapers do it so much better than us and so much faster. But that's basically taking away any opportunity for us to grow as writers, learn how to reach out to people. We also don't have any influence over us that the university has, of course, from the regents and the administration telling them what they are and are not allowed to write. And local newspapers, I don't know any students who read local newspapers for UC Davis news. So just because we don't have a journalism program at this campus, by the way, no other UC does besides Irvine. They all have newspapers, and they are essentially the journalism program at their school. So you can't take that away, because we're a public institution, and if we were private, it would be a different story, because then they could decide what their school is going to be about and what they're going to focus on, but we have to provide opportunities for everyone.
KDVS is also a kind of volunteer-based organization. Aggie TV, we're also kind of volunteer-based. People are not being paid, but they're still producing work. Why should the Aggie staff be paid?
Well, I think with KDVS Aggie TV and the California Aggie I think we should all be getting paid, because we're providing a service, an invaluable service to the campus. A lot of people on this campus, as he would argue, that they're all volunteers and they're not getting paid, but they're also not working 50 hours a week on a deadline, producing something that can reach anyone because it's public at a great university. I think the fact that students from Aggie TV and KDVS and the Aggie do everything for volunteer, it's kind of a representative of the actual industry, which is unfair. But to keep those things alive on a college campus, you can't get the people that really want to dedicate their entire life to it if they have to work 3 other jobs. And these jobs require all of our time, and we're willing to give it all that time. We just need to be able to eat. So
Elizabeth, you're also a student. You just mentioned that staff are dealing with having to work 3 jobs to sustain themselves, and there are students out there who are also thinking the same, and they're asking, why should we pay for this fee? What is your kind of message to these students in this financial struggle?
That on this campus we all support each other, and we all pay for things that we probably don't use. And I think that's the responsibility of a student to find out what our money's going toward, but also that's the responsibility of a student newspaper, is to provide the resources and the tools to better find out that information. So we won't be, there's no one on campus who can better interview someone and do research and find out information about where all of our money is going to, besides a student newspaper that has no affiliations and no influences on it, such as any other group on campus.
All right, well, thank you again for joining us for this interview. And if you are watching this video, don't forget to cast your vote and let your voice be heard at this year's winter elections coming up in February 18th. Details about the elections, as well as additional information about this initiative, can be found in the video description below. Thank you again for watching Aggie TV.
Thank you.